I have a WhatsApp group with all the colleagues from my workplace, and I go on it from time to time to kind of see what messages they have been writing, and sometimes I write, but very, very rarely. And it was last Monday I was going through the messages. I usually have like hundreds going through them. And at some point towards the end, I see a picture of Jesus being posted. And I get so excited, I'm like, oh, one of my colleagues posted the picture of Jesus. And I look at the picture, and as I was looking at the picture, my excitement and joy turned into anger. And basically, it was a picture of Jesus standing, and there was another man crawling at his feet. He was on the ground, and some joker added some comments on it saying, as if Jesus was saying, hey, I can't heal your hangover. And then the guy on the floor was saying, yeah, but you turned the water into wine. And he used a very offensive word towards Jesus. And that really, it really made me sad, How can you use that word against Jesus? How can you say that about God? But obviously, the guy that posted it, he was trying to say that he is going through a hangover phase, as in he drank a lot of alcohol the day before, and he was feeling sick on that Monday, last Monday. And I was looking at my phone, and I was, kept on unlocking it, looking at the picture, closing it, and I kept on thinking, should I say something, should I not say something? Not because I was afraid to say something. That wasn't the issue. But I was thinking, okay, God is definitely way more capable of protecting himself than I can do, And at some point, I just wanted to say something, and I just said, it's so sad that people don't realize how deep this message was. The whole water and wine thing, it had such a deeper meaning. And it's so sad that people interpret it the wrong way, and they have been interpreting it the wrong way forever. Since it happened. And it happens so often that we look at these messages from the Bible and we literally take them by their literal meaning. We don't actually try to see the symbolic or the symbol behind these words, to see a bit beyond that, to see who Jesus was, what that very first miracle meant for the world, and everything, the message that was kind of conveyed in this miracle. We sometimes reduce Jesus just to, or we reduce his miracles just to the fact that he's expressing his power or his divine power. But he done way more. He was trying to do a lot more than that. Even since Jesus was on earth, he still had people going up to him saying, how can somebody go back into his mother womb and be born again? How can you how can we eat your flesh? How can we drink your blood? You're out of your mind. Because people are taking the literal words and they don't see the symbolic or the meaning behind these words. And we have these verses, we say, oh, you know the truth and the truth will set you free. But often we read the Bible and we just read the miracles and we say, okay, the miracles were just to show how powerful Jesus was, just to show the power that God was revealing through him. But actually, his miracles and everything he's done had such a deeper meaning and so much truth into them. And this is the truth that you need to come to realize. This is the truth that you need inside you in order to be set free. So I just want to read this passage, the wedding at Cana. I just want to go through this and say a couple of words about what happened there. I got triggered by the fact that my colleagues, they never understood what happened there, and they take it as a joke. But let's just actually look at this text for a second, for a couple of minutes, and see what Jesus actually meant while he done this. So John chapter 2, on the third day there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also invited to the wedding his disciples. Jesus was also invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. And Jesus said to her, woman, what this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw some water out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. And imagine these servants, and being a servant at that time was one of the lowest things you can be. Probably if you were a servant, you were one of the most non-significant people on the planet at that time. And Jesus yet uses them. Jesus didn't send his mother. Jesus didn't send the disciples. He said, "Yeah, you take it and you bring it to the master of the feast." So imagine even that servant, having the cup and his hand was shaking, or their hands were shaking. Because think about it, you just take water, you go to the master of the feast, which was an important person at the wedding, and you say, "This is wine." And he clearly sees it's water. But as the guy walks along, he just sees, "Oh man, look at the water. It's turning it's turning red. It's something happening to it." There's such a deep meaning to this word. So let's actually finish what I started reading. When the master of the feast tasted, the water now became wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. The master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." And we all know what wine signifies in the Bible. We know what this symbol is. We know it's the blood of Jesus. It's the new covenant. And, there's a reason why these things were happening at the wedding. Because God has been trying to establish a wedding between himself and Israel for such a long time, many, many years. And Israel kept on denying God, denying God, denying God. And God has sent wine, different sorts of wine before to Israel. They were called Moses and Samuel and Elijah and other names, that we know. And, they would drink a bit of it. They would get the impression that they quenched their thirst, but they would get thirsty again. The moment those people were dying, they would still get the feeling that they were led by a mortal person. So they needed something else. They needed a kind of wine that would actually quench their thirst. And, God has been trying to establish, Jesus has been trying to establish a wedding between himself and you for such a long time as well. And you probably kept on denying him as well, deny. And you do have this thirst for something, something out there. And you've been trying to get to it. You've been trying to do all sorts of things and try to accept other things and try to avoid it. Yet your thirst never stops. At some point, whatever liquid you're consuming right now, you are going to run out of it, just the way it happened at this wedding. You are going to run out of it, and you're gonna need something special. And this new wine that was created, that Jesus made, this had 3 properties, at least in this episode, at least in this experience. And these 3 properties, one of the first ones was, as I said, every single word that's listed there is listed there for a reason. And it has such a great meaning, such a deeper meaning. So the first thing that we can draw a conclusion about this new wine is the fact that it has cleansing properties. Because there is a reason why this new wine was made in the stone jars that were used for washing yourself. So think about it. One of the first things that this new wine does to you, it cleanses you. The way the water, people used to use these jars to wash their hands before they eat or whatever, wash their whole body. Now, Jesus used the exact same jars to put his blood into it, to put the wine that has the cleansing properties. And you really, really need this. And you need this because you need to it's going to cleanse you and it's going to, take away your sin. And you need this because it's going to quench your thirst. This is the kind of wine that you need to be drinking in order to quench your thirst. And the other thing, and this is the most important thing, is the fact that it's a new covenant. And this is the reason why it happened at the wedding. And this is the reason why the master of the feast said, everybody brings their new wine. Everybody brings the good wine at the start of the wedding. But you, which is God, you have waited until the very last, and you brought the very best wine. You brought the very best wine at the end. So you know what this means? It means that God has done the best thing ever for you. He done other good things for the people of Israel, and he brought other prophets. And the prophets kept on coming with their wines to the Israel, and they kept on, denying it and saying, okay, whatever, it's good, or they kept on walking astray, up to a point where God would call Israel a prostitute, because Israel kept on going away from God, and God actually allowed Israel to go into exile, to be punished for its sins. But, here's a wedding, the very first miracle that Jesus was doing, just to signify that here's a new beginning, here's a new start, here's a new legacy it's about to happen, a new covenant, a new blood, a new wine. And if you probably tried this. I'm pretty sure you actually tried to get closer to God, and you know these truths, and you kept on, trying, and you probably kept on failing as well. And I'll tell you why this has happened. Because just as Jesus was saying, if you put new wine into an old vessel, it's going to break. And this has happened for so many years, and it happens nowadays as well. You know why this is happening? Because you're probably trying to mix God, his wine, with the world. And the more you do this, the more you break yourself, And you keep on trying, but you're actually getting yourself further and further away from God. So here's my conclusion. If you really want to benefit from this new wine that Jesus is bringing to all of us, then what you need to do is to allow God to completely change you. Is to go to God and say, look, that's it. I'm giving you my vessel. No more world. I'm giving you everything. Otherwise, you're going to keep on breaking and breaking and breaking. And at the end, we're all going to have to become one of those servants. Think about, as I said, like I love this experience that happened so much, this miracle that Jesus performed, because it has so many things into it. The servants, you have to become a servant at some point. You're going to have to be the guy that draws water from the stone jars and brings it to the people and brings life to them. You're gonna have to turn into one of those people. And you can only become one of those people when you allow God to change your vessel so that he can pour out the new wine into you. Now, may God help you to do that. Amen.